Welcome to the OpenJ9 community call for April 13th. If you haven't done so already, please add your name and company affiliation to the minutes. Does anybody have anything super important they want to talk about right off the bat? If not, I'll just go through the regular agenda. We're looking for volunteers for future lightning talks, if anybody has something they want to talk about. I'll open the new user issues. Stack Overflow error on AIX. Toby was looking at that. We might need to increase the default native stack size on AIX. I think we've also seen a problem internally, internal testing related to the native stack size. So that issue, I tagged it for the release. So if we do need to increase the native stack size, probably something we should be doing for the 2.6 release. I know Keith's working on the time zone information in the Java core, so we can know what time zone the Java core was created in, making it easier to correlate the dates and times with other information. Thread parked forever. It's a problem that somebody's reported. I guess we don't really have any information about how to recreate it or enough information to really do anything. Record equality, I know Bob Neat's been looking at that related to the OpenJDK method handles. That's it. Are there any other user-raised issues anybody wants to talk about? Reminder about help wanted. You can tag issues help wanted, good first issue. Seems to me we changed one of those names. Is that what they're still called? Good first issue. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, I think we renamed it from beginner or something like that.
Okay, so these are the updated names.
Yeah.
I'll open the dashboard for download trends. J9, where to hotspot. Looks like the usual stuff. It's gone up a little bit in the last little while. If anyone has something they want to comment on, just feel free.
I was wondering about like nightly downloads versus release downloads. So right now the dashboard doesn't distinguish between the two, but it could be added if we wanted to open an issue for it or a PR. So just out of my own curiosity, I looked at the Friday night build as of last night, what the downloads were. So like we would have had the weekend, and the top platform was Linux OpenJ9 with 35 downloads. And then, sorry, X Linux. And then the next highest one was X Linux on Hotspot with 26. And then they sort of decreased from there. But just sort of one data point example of what the nightly downloads are like. And that's on JDK 11.
Right.
Just as an FYI. So there are people that pick up the nightlies. All those stats are available via the GitHub API. That's how the Adopt dashboard picks them up. given the differences in the numbers that I'm seeing, I don't believe it would be all automation, if any.
Okay. Any other comments? So moving on to the release and the milestone. Who do we have on this call today? So Toby.
Yep.
The illegal access error. I think we have a PR and we were running PR testing on it.
Yeah.
So we expect to have that delivered soon.
Yeah, I think all the reviews are complete. So I think it's just a matter of pressing the button at this point. Let me double check to see if it's run the test.
Okay,
Yeah,
it would be
so
good to
Go.
get that in as soon as possible so we could ensure there's going to be no fallout from it.
Yeah.
And then we'll want to get it into the 2.6 stream as well, which is only tested on the weekend, but we want to make sure everything looks good in the head stream before we get that far. So the coming weekend is going to be our last weekend of testing before the actual release. So we're rapidly running out of time. So there's AIX DDR issue. I don't think we have a core file to look at that. I expect we'll just move that out to the next release unless we get a quick fix and feel like it's important enough to include in the release.
I do have a core file, but I don't think that it's any more than the issue says that it's corrupt. I'm hoping to dig into it and find out in what way is it corrupt, but there's not much we can do until we understand that.
I'm going to just move it to the next release. And if something comes up that you think needs to be fixed for the current release, you can always raise that. The Jython Hello World, we have added that test. All it's missing is one mode. I guess if the mode was ready in time, we could add it to the 2.6 release. Otherwise, it'll come in after the 2.6 release. But of course, it'll also be tested in the headstream as soon as it's ready. And then there's the Stack Overflow error. I know you put some comments in there, Toby. I don't know if you have any more thoughts. If we need to update the native stack size on AIX for this release.
Yeah, the only question I have is this a new failure or is this an existing one? If it's a new failure, then we may end up increasing the stack size, but I think that would warrant a little more investigation as to what exactly has changed between now and last time it passed. But if it has always failed, then I think the necessary step is to just increase the native stack size.
Simon, who raised this, is on the call. So Simon, are you able to get more information for Toby about whether this is new or?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't seen it before, firstly, but then these tests we're trying to bring in this extended suite, but we've seen a few Stack Overflow errors occurring, so I can certainly do more digging.
A few Stack Overflow errors just in this test suite or in other places?
Possibly in other places. I'll have to do more digging. As I say, we've been going through these tests, and sometimes they seem to be just on one machine and not another, and sometimes they're more consistent. So we're trying to get to the bottom of them. I'll go review all the results we have for this and add any information I can find.
Okay, sounds good. So I would be inclined to actually delay the release of AIX until we resolve this because in our last release, some problems popped up after the fact, and I don't know that we've ever gotten to the bottom of them. They seem to be resolved, but I don't want to put out another AIX release that is not going to be good. So if we're going to have to do something, I would delay releasing AIX until we figure it out. But still go ahead with the other platforms.
Have you any reason to think that it would be JDK 11 specific versus, if it's just the VM, it would presumably be on both 8 and 16?
Well, the code for JDK 11 is different from JDK 8, so it could be using different things under the covers that take more stack in JDK 11.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So
I was
mean,
only looking for how extended to make my research of the test running elsewhere. That was all.
But
That's what I'm trying.
if it affects 11, it should affect higher releases, so 16. 8, maybe if you ran the same code, but the class library code is different between 8 and 11, so it may not be that easy to run the same code. But if you had, for example, a user application that ran on both 8 and 11.
Yeah, no, I was thinking about this specific test, actually. I'll do some rooting around.
Okay, thanks. And then the last thing is just the PR for the first thing, I think. Does anyone else have comments about the upcoming release? So we're expecting to get the OpenJDK final changes probably late in the day, April 20th, and then we'll start release activities after that, running the builds at OpenJ9 and tagging things and getting them ready to build. Don't see Sharon on the call, so I guess we don't have any update on performance, unless anybody else knows about mixed ref performance. Just move on. So Shelley couldn't attend the call today, but she sent a note saying that Adopt is working on preparations for the April release, and the Eclipse Adoptium transition is still ongoing. Last repos are being slowly moved. There's about 5 left to go. So that takes us to machine updates. Adam?
Not too much to say. We did roll out that plugin for tests. Seems to be working. In terms of the artifact history, we had increased the nightly build history to 40 last week, and we're still stable around 77%. So I looked at a random build of a nightly, and it was holding 40 builds, but only 36 artifacts because the older ones were older than 40 days. So I increased the time-based cleanup just now to 45. So we'll see how that plays out over the next week or so.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, we can just keep an eye on it.
Yep.
So the parameter separator plugin was added.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, sounds good. So Babneet, are you ready? Do you have an update for Adopt OpenJDK method handles? OpenJDK method handles?
So I think we have further reduced the number of functional failures, and we were also able to run benchmarks. And I think the JIT optimizations are still to be implemented, so we are still getting performance which is in the same order of magnitude as Xint with the interpreter for that benchmark. So I think it will take another few weeks until the JIT optimizations are merged to see if we can see performance improvements in comparison to the existing implementation of OpenJ9 and be at par with OpenJDK. And I think this sums up my update. I'll pass it back to you, Peter.
Okay, thank you. So we'll be looking forward to better performance. I won't hold my breath for a couple of weeks though. These things always seem to take more time than you expect.
Yes.
Do we have Devin? Yep, Devin. What's the latest on CMake for ZOS?
I have the build working now. It's just a matter of did some hacks to kind of get things working, so it's a matter of kind of cleaning those up and in a form where they are more presentable and opening those PRs. So I expect to get that next couple of days.
Okay, sounds good. Do we have Marius? I don't see Marius on the call today. That means we can skip down to an update on moving repos. So we had moved build OpenJ9, which seemed fine. Last week we moved OpenJ9 utils. The instructions were that committers had to update their links. Nobody complained or anything, and I still see activity happening in OpenJ9 utils. So I guess things are going well. And after we do the release, we'll just move the rest of the repos. I imagine we should update all our links to all the repos, but if the redirection works as well as promised, we don't necessarily have to do that right away. We can do that over time. I don't know how long we'll get redirected for, possibly forever. So, is there any other business?
Teresa mentioned in Slack that, excuse me, the calendar invite on the website is pointed at the old call time still. So I don't know if that's a website update or I don't see Sue on the call.
No, I'll poke her on Slack and ask her about it.
Okay.
I'll write it down so we don't forget. Anything else? Okay, thanks everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks, bye.